Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. And today, despite doing only a top 5 video instead of a top 10 video, this is the video that will break my table. You see, today I'm doing 5 games that I think deserve a small box version. And to be very clear, this isn't about taking something like Everdell Big Box and saying I want a smaller version. There is a smaller version. It's called Everdell. There are a lot of games out there that have gone full-on crazy with their big boxes, but a lot of them are doing so as some sort of consolidation of everything else that already exists. But then there are others that aren't doing that. There are others that exist only as a big box version, and that puts that game out of the reach of other people because of things like price point, the rules overload. Sometimes bigger boxes don't mean lots more rules, other times they do. So it's prices, rules overload, shelf space, a variety of reasons why big box games can be less accessible than smaller ones, but also they can give you great experiences. I am not here to shy away from great experiences. Oh, another issue with big box games, sometimes there's just more work to take out and table, although Foundations of Rome is a big box game that does an amazing job being incredibly accessible rules-wise, incredibly accessible as far as setup and tear down, while being a huge box game. But also it's not in today's video because it already has Foundations of Metropolis. In fact, the inspiration for today's video was coming to you from Rove Anchor Point. I just covered Rove Anchor Point, which, depending on when you watch this video, is either currently going on or not, and it occurred to me that there's a bunch of games that do have smaller boxes. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, Rove Anchor Point, Foundations of Metropolis, as well as others that are escaping my mind at the moment, but they're, the Marvel Zombies and Zombicide Deceased, or whatever is Deceased, both have smaller, more accessible retail options. There are a lot of games out there that did take that big box version that came first. In all those cases, the big box version came first. And they said, here you go. Here's a smaller, easier to play version, sometimes with rules guidance like Jaws of the Lion, Rove Anchor Point, other times just less components and therefore less work and less price point to hopefully get it tabled. And hey, if you love it, that big box version still exists. You can still get your hands on that big box version now that you know you love it, now that it's worth diving into. And other times you'll get the big box version and still play the small version because sometimes smaller boxes are just more accessible. And so for today, I decided to do 5 more games, 5 games specifically, that their only way to get them is in a big box format, at least to the best of my knowledge. The only way to get them is in the big box format. I almost included Mosaic for this video, but Mosaic does have a smaller box version, so I did not. But these are the only ways to get your hands on them is in the big box version, and I think they deserve a small box version. I'll be working my way through these from smallest to largest as far as box size goes. So, starting off with number 1, we have Cthulhu Death May Die. I mentioned that Marvel Zombies has a small box version, and honestly, you could probably apply this to other games from Simon's line of games. Well, I guess some of them being Asmodee's games, some of them being Tycoon games. Wherever the games currently exist. There are others you can do this with, but I think Cthulhu Death May Die is the one that deserves it most. This only comes in a $100 standard box. There is no entry gateway version, and it happens to be this one is the most accessible, both in terms of rules and setup and getting to the table, than anything else I'll be covering today, but it still does have a barrier in the box size and the price point that I think could be solved with a smaller box version exactly the way they have Marvel Zombies, and then they have Marvel Zombies, and Deceased, and Deceased. Those small box versions for Deceased and Marvel Zombies, those retail-friendly options you can buy on Amazon for 40, 50 bucks, sometimes on sale for 30 bucks, they're a great way to get into the system and see if it works for you without having to go full bling. I think Cthulhu Death May Die can benefit from that exact same situation. Take a small little box, give them a single Elder God, maybe 2 scenarios, like 2 episodes and 1 Elder God. If you really can, 2 Elder Gods, but I think that's tricky because honestly the core boxes come with 2 Elder Gods. But hey, 2 episodes, 1 Elder God, maybe 3 episodes and 1 Elder God, 4 investigators, that's it. A bunch of standees for the enemies. You could do standees, maybe you can get miniatures in there depending, because honestly, Cthulhu Death May Die, unlike Zombicide, isn't as miniature heavy. You probably could get away with putting a few miniatures in there, a few stand enemies, and then boom, you have a core box and a great way to get into Cthulhu Death May Die that is accessible from a price point standpoint, from less table setup, that jumps straight into the game, exactly like they did for Marvel Zombies and for deceased, I think it's a great option. And especially with Asmodee buying the rights to Cthulhu Death May Die, like they took over that line of games from Simon, I think they in particular, because they are generally considered to be more retail friendly as a company, as opposed to crowdfunding focused, even though they said they will be diving into crowdfunding, I think in particular, that is a great thing that they can and should do if they don't already have plans to do it. It's a great way to get Cthulhu Death May Die into the hands of more people so that we can all slowly worship and bring our elder god into this world. Coming in at what is arguably... I'm debating box sizes here. I'm going to go with this box size as my number 2, okay? There's reasons and pros and cons as to which box size I would go with. We're going to go with Oathsworn Into the Deepwood as the second smallest box on the table. Now, I will say, I have the big box miniature version that comes with 4 boxes full of content. By that standard, this would not be the second smallest. But you could just get the core standee version of the game, and that's all you have. You could just get Oathsworn and go straight to the standee version and you get a box this size and nothing else, and that's great. That's a great accessible entry point to the game. But I say accessible while laughing because, again, when you think of how big boxes can be, I think a guided Jaws of the Lion style Oathsworn experience could be amazing. But you can even do miniatures, potentially, depending on how many characters you have. You have a handful of characters in the box. Like, don't do the full box experience and it's just a question of standees versus miniatures. Rather, you're doing a few characters you can dive into, a few bosses to go with. It can be a great guided experience. The components do not have to be everything you get in this box. They could, if you're doing a smaller, streamlined experience that gives you a handful of episodes to go through. I think it's 100% doable, and again, my point is that it's a great way to introduce people to the world of Oathsworn with a guided experience, teaching you the rules one at a time, only giving you the characters you need to play the game instead of the giant smorgasbord of characters they give you in this box. But of course, like with Jaws of the Lion or with Rogue Anchor Point, the content you give could be hopefully more interactive with the other content in the greater ecosystem. It doesn't have to be exclusive to that game. It could be something like, hey, do you like Oathsworn? Do you want 4 new characters to dive into? And also it happens to be a great entry point if you haven't played your copy yet. Boom, here you go. Here's Oathsworn, what do we call it? It can't be called Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. Oathsworn the Hidden Glade. That's not the worst name. I can think of better names, but like something about a small forest. That's like, that's the vibe I'm going for. Anyways, Oathsworn the Hidden Glade. Coming soon, possibly never, but I do think it's a good idea. Number 3. Again, we are going box size-wise over here. This one is arguably slightly smaller on the box size, but it's heavier. So I debated which one to go with, but this is definitely heavier. We're going to go with the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of Second Era from Chip Theory Games. This is an excellent game. It borrows from what Too Many Bones already did, but it makes it very much its own while leaning into the IP of, the Elder Scrolls. So it gives people who want that experience, who may not be familiar with, Too Many Bones or Chip Theory, any of the other games, it gives them an option to dive into it. And if you already know Chip Theory and you want some of the advanced experiences, this is a wide open world with a ton of content, tons of skill lines, way to grow your characters, journeys you can go on. There's so much you can do in this game. I'm trying to figure out how to put these boxes. It's going to break my table here. The amount of weight on the table right now is a lot. But anyways, Elder Scrolls. It's great. The only problem is it's a $200 plus game just to get your hands on the base game box, let alone everything else for it, and you kind of have to go all in on it just to start. The entry point is an all-in pledge. It's not, to be clear, the entry point is not an all-in pledge. The entry point is the price of an all-in experience. I think that they have already done this with Too Many Bones. They already have Too Many Bones Undertow, Too Many Bones Unbreakable. They already have Too Many Bones Inaccessible. Did I say, yeah, Unbreakable and Undertow? Those are the two. Those are 2 smaller box entry points. They sat there and said, hey, Too Many Bones is a big box. Let's make it. And that, by the way, is a small box compared to Elder Scrolls, but they made it even smaller, more accessible, just giving you the bare minimum that you need to dive into the world of Too Many Bones. I think that Elder Scrolls deserves the same treatment. Give you 1 quest book to go through. You don't need the whole world. Maybe this isn't broken into 3 quest arcs. Maybe you build it purely around a single quest arc because it's meant to be a taste into the world. But again, as usual, you get some new characters, some new classes, some new skill lines, some things that make it interesting so that somebody who's diving into the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the smaller box, they can dive into it while getting new content for their system if they already love out the scrolls. Or alternatively, it could be something you just dive into on your own. You get to experience the system that exists with less stuff than the big giant box. Again, I think it's a good way, especially considering that video game fans, much as they might be used to dropping tons of money on deluxe editions of a game, some of them are not willing to spend hundreds of dollars on a video game that the video game itself would only cost 50, 60 bucks, unless of course you're getting deluxe with extras and add-ons and all that stuff. Sometimes give people cheaper options, and they will often dive into it. Something that Chip Theory Games has done with their entire 20-strong line of games, being like, hey, you want to like our games, but we only give you expensive versions of them? Here you go. Here's 20 strong. And now they're doing Neon Knights, an entire new subclass in the line, although arguably a different audience. I think the Elder Scrolls deserves a smaller box entry point. Number 4, and I can't believe I'm saying this is the second biggest box we have over here. This... I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stand up over here. This is maybe I can drag it over. This is Primal. Primal, which I guess you can probably see the words Primal on the side. Again, the sheer weight is untenable. Primal, from Reggie Games, is a fantastic boss battler experience. You're going to take control of a variety of heroes. You're going to build your decks, or start with a pre-constructed deck and work your way towards editing it. You can dive into a campaign, you can dive into single shot, but all the time you're facing off against these giant miniatures on the table, and then having your characters go at those miniatures and try to combo your cards together and build the right set of gear and cards in order to take down the enemies that you face. It's incredible. It is one of my favorite games. Every single time I play it, it is a tense fight to the best. It's hands down my favorite boss battler. It's such a good game that I've played both the campaign, I've played single shot. It gives you very good single shot experiences, by the way, which I think that lots of games offer you single shot, but it kind of one or the other is better, single shot or campaign. And in Primal, I genuinely think both are absolutely amazing. The reasonable complaint against it is that to try the game is, again, $200 plus just to try the game. The base core box is expensive. They don't even have a standee version like Oathsworn does, but I think they should skip the standee version and go straight to, again, a Jaws of the Lion / Grove Anchor Point type of experience, where you're diving into a much smaller box, maybe miniatures, maybe standees. I think I could argue the standees might be better, but again, you have the argument that maybe miniatures are helpful, especially if you're trying to combo with your big box. Whatever it is, give people 2 bosses to fight against, or 3 to 4 bosses if it's a standee version. Give them 2 characters. Make it a 2-character only box. It's Primal Duo, except it's not really... I mean, there's all this rave nowadays about making 2-player games of everything. You could make Primal Duo, but not Primal Duel, because Primal Duel would not be what the game is, but Primal Duo. Primal Duo. Just have it focused on, here's 2 new characters. You want to play with more people? No problem. Get Primal. This is for you to dive into the world of Primal, take control of these new characters that you can only get in this box, and face off against these 2 new big bad monsters, and have it very, very basic and straightforward. Even the maps, you could have a foldable board. I know Primal likes to do play mats, and I support that, but in this case, to keep the box size small, you can have foldable boards, standees, you can keep the whole thing in the $40, $50 price range while giving you a few new enemies to fight off against, a few new characters to play as, and a little mini campaign of like 6 scenarios to go through as you work towards building up your characters and their decks, or whatever it is. Maybe 10 campaigns, 10 missions. You could probably do it all in 10 scenarios instead. I think it would attract people into the world of Primal, people who don't know what they're missing out on, people who are reasonably shy of spending hundreds of dollars in order to dive into this game. It's a big commitment for a game that is very, very big. But I will say this, I'm getting rid of a lot of my big box games, I'm getting rid of a lot of my campaign games this year, because things that are harder to table are harder to table. Primal is not in danger of going anywhere. And number 5, the biggest and heaviest box on the table. Again, it is what it is. I'm going to slide this across over here. This is Isofarian Guard. Isofarian Guard would require some major changes. I debated whether to include this one or not, because I think this requires big changes to the structure of the game in order to make it work as a smaller box experience. They have so many chips in this box, and the problem is, one of my big things in terms of how to make and market these games, a big pitch for me is you want it to be something that the hardcore fan also wants and can integrate with their experience. If you just make something that stands on its own, that's fine. There's reasons for that, by all means, but I think like whenever you make smaller, more accessible games, I think that having a reason for the hardcore fan base to want them makes that product more likely to succeed, and you're also working with people who haven't tried the big thing. But also, if you get the small thing and then want to upgrade to the big thing, it's nice if your small thing wasn't wasted. And so for me, all of these ideas are all focused around the idea that you get something that's a smaller entry point, and you can integrate it if you either already have it or if you choose to grow into it. The problem with Isofarian Guard is because of the chip system, you'd have to either have an entirely different system, or alternatively, you would be doubling up on your chips. And that is a challenge. And it's a challenge I haven't fully figured out. The good news is I'm not actually making these games, I'm just trying to pitch them as ideas to be made. The Isofarian Guard is a fantastic, epic experience. It is unfortunately so epic that it comes in a box that is like 35 pounds and ridiculously large and hard to table, and this is the only way to get and play the game. And there's more content for it too. There's more expansion stuff and other things in case you want to dive into it further. But it's also so good. I think there almost needs to be a way, and maybe it could be app-based. I don't love it, but they do have an excellent foreteller app. Maybe if you have the core system, but the bag building, no, I don't think you can do bag building. I don't think you can do like different chips in general. Maybe I'm trying to think the practical ways to do it, because again, the idea is the same. The idea is that you have some sort of entry into Isofarian Guard. The good news is the nature of Isofarian Guard does mean that the content you have is almost more story-based, so it doesn't need to be as integratable. But I think giving players a smaller journey with that experience, with the foreteller, with the story, but give it just about 2 characters instead of having all the characters you're slowly going to go through. Just have them 2 characters. The whole entire thing is 2 characters, 1 book, and then unfortunately you will need the chips that you need in order to go ahead and play the game. That's the balance where maybe you could have cardboard chits. It removes some of the fun of the bag building, or maybe, and this isn't even that crazy, maybe instead of the Isofarian Guard, maybe this one's different than the others. Maybe this one is not integratable. Maybe it has the same core concept as far as having the characters, having the story, having the foreteller app, having the bag building, but maybe instead of giant chips, maybe it's dice this time. And you can get away with making a smaller box with fewer dice, and you change up the mechanics. These 2 characters rely on dice instead of chips. There's ways to keep the same general concept of the game, guiding players through it one step at a time, while also making it budget friendly and feeling like an introduction to the world of Isofarian Guard. And again, for a game that's not cheap and has a giant box, I think these things have merit. These are my 5 games that I think are giant big box experiences that deserve to have a smaller box experience. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments down below. I debated Twilight Imperium, but I've never actually played TI4, so I don't know enough about it to know whether that makes sense or it's viable. But let me know if there are other big box experiences that deserve an accessible entry point. I think that there's a place in this hobby for gigantic games. There's a place for incredibly epic experiences. There's a place for $200 starting points for games. But I also don't like gatekeeping people out of those. I don't like that the choice the consumer has is, do I jump into this hoping it's going to be worth $200, or do I just skip on it and watch all the other people who are excited about it, and I'll never know whether it's worth it for me? These games, for half the games on the table are half the price of a console. Actually, I think consoles have gone up, but they're half the price of what a console used to be, or a used PS4, or any of those things. That's a big investment for a singular game as opposed to an entire game system. And so that's why I think that they all deserve, because of how good they are, I think they deserve an entry point so that more people can play them. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.